What's up, everybody? It's your boy Roy, or for fun, Royster, here with another video. And this video, we are going to continue on the Royster Chronicles of Faith series, and this will be the fourth part. And in this part, we are going to talk about my time at Bible school or ministry school. This time period took place from mid-2003 to mid-2006. It was a 3-year school. 2 years of it were focused on studies. Then the internship focused on, the first half of the internship was an internship where you got sent to a ministry of sorts, and you served there in some capacity. And then, which usually would have been a full year, but they drew back and gave us a half, just did a half, and then followed up with another half year of classroom work or curriculum. So anyways, that is what we're going to focus on. So in the last video, I left you off with that cliffhanger. Basically, my pastor or mentor at that time, he brought this school to my attention, and I'm just so you know, just to be, not to be secretive or anything, but I'm going to try my best not to disclose the school, just because, because in sharing things, some of this, there were some hardships or things associated with being a part of the school or this ministry, but there's a lot of good, so in that, I'm just going to be exercise caution in that regards of sharing that, but just know that, I was brought to my attention a school. The focus of that school, which caught my attention, was that its focus was on developing your relationship with Christ. Now, with it, there was going to be curriculum and opportunities for service, but that was sort of like the, cornerstone of their church or that school was intimacy with Christ, fellowship with Christ, getting to know Christ, and then putting yourself into a position to be refined and molded and shaped and prepared for ministry beyond, so that was the sort of the focus of the school, and that really jived with my heart, with my spirit. And so, like I said, I signed up, or I sent forth a resume to the school, and I was accepted. It was a very small school, so it was limited class size. So they would be running at that time 3 classes, first year, second year, and then the interns, and then there was a small staff. But so I got accepted, and so in the summer of 2003, or at the end of the 2003, I made my way to this school, to this ministry. So to let you know even some more details, it wasn't sort of an accredited college or school or Bible school, so to speak. It was a ministry school, and then when you finished, you got a diploma of completion. But as we know that the kingdom of God and its servants aren't limited to what type of paperwork they have to prove. What matters the most is the power that is, or authority that has been given by God on an individual's life. Unfortunately, even though that's the truth, that's not how it works a lot. And that's not to discredit those that, need some sort of accreditation, because you do need to have something to prove, or have some sort of foundation to show. If people are unfamiliar with you, to know that, you have some sort of a respect, or have some sort of pedigree behind you that would make you sort of a candidate for ministry or service. But obviously, but then that shouldn't be the bottom line. If people who are around you know you and see God's calling on you, then I also believe that that should speak volumes, and your life should speak volumes too as well. So anyways, that's kind of getting on down a rabbit trail. So it was kind of, a diploma base, but towards the end, even though I know that you can carry on some of your classwork, would carry on and be accredited work if you went to the right ministry school that would offer a more certified or more I guess legit diploma or certificate. So, but anyways, that wasn't my motivation for going. Obviously, I just wanted to get to know Jesus more and have the opportunity to get to know him better, to just, let him work in my life, to be transformed, and to, get some skills, because I think that was what my mentor at the time saw, that I needed some real, some foundational work laid in my life. Because one of the things I was struggling with towards the end there was, and I think I mentioned this in the other video, I can't remember, is that, I was wrestling with doubt about my salvation. It was a thing that the enemy was attacking me hard on, and not that I, that was engrossed in sin or anything that, caused me to doubt. It was just, I sort of there was a stage in my life where, a lot of the feelings and all that kind of was wearing off, and it made me question, and then it gave the enemy inroads into my mind to cause me to doubt, to cause me to, be subject to fear. And so not necessarily maybe having those foundations of understanding the love of God, understanding the finished work of the cross, understanding, all those different things that would help give you a sure foundation and would help you to combat against those lies and against those attacks, I didn't have, or I was still developing. So going to this school I'm sure that was the idea, and the mentor directed me that would be beneficial to me and on many levels. So I go in, I'm ready. Now I know that this school is going to be different, because going in, we weren't allowed, it was kind of monastic, or it was very monastic in its setup, and sort of even boot campish, so to speak. I always kind of if I was trying to explain it to people, it was kind of like a monastic boot camp, or a spiritual boot camp of sorts, or a modern day monastery of sorts. And and obviously a lot of the monasteries are typically, I think, reserved for the Catholic Church. I don't know if it's exclusively a Catholic thing, but this wasn't a Catholic institution. It was a non-denominational Protestant, institution, I would say. Not that anyone who was Catholic couldn't go there, but I don't know anyone. When I was there, no one with Catholic backgrounds, outside of the actual leader of the church, had that. Not to say that there weren't, and I just was oblivious, but anywho, so it was non-denominational in scope, but you were very isolated. You basically, when you went, you were on campus, and you was on campus pretty much all the time. And so it kind of gave you a bubble, a safe space, so to speak, or a place where you could be just kind of disconnect from the world and all its influences and all its distractions, and you can come and you can essentially lay at the feet of Jesus and get to know him. Now, of course, it wasn't just, a 24/7 or all day where you're kind of praying and fasting and, seeking the Lord. Obviously, there was coursework, and I think it was pretty legit, coursework and setup, to give you entry level foundations, and then even dig in a little bit deeper into scripture type courses. There was courses that helped give you ministry training, ministry prep, and so those were part of your daily life, as along with you were assigned chores and responsibilities, which I thought was cool, because I think because the church, the school was very inexpensive to attend, and you were given room, board, your meals, So much was provided for you and at a low cost, that I think having chores and responsibilities, be it you were helping like keep the dorms or the facilities clean, interior, exterior, you might work in the kitchen or the cafeteria on some level. But I think it also just kind of helped give discipline, and it gave you that sense, or reinforced a sense of community, or what community living is like. But you're kind of there with that specific. But it was so awesome to go to a place where everybody, their focus was Jesus, right? As far as I know or could tell, and now everybody's coming in at different levels of their faith and in different stages, but as far as my understanding or knowledge, that Jesus was the reason for why everybody who was there was coming to theirs to further their walk or their relationship with God. And so that was kind of the makeup of the day. It's just kind of, I'm sharing, sort of breaking down the details of like what that life was like over this time. You'd get up early in the morning and you'd have your devotional time, set aside devotional time before you'd get up, get cleaned up, go breakfast, and then you would go and do full days of classwork. In the middle of the classwork, prior to lunch, we would always have a daily chapel service, which could range from, sermons, teachings, prayer services, different things of that sort, that would happen in the middle of the day. And then after your coursework, you'd have some time off before, you'd go to lunch or not lunch, but dinner. And then, depending on if you had chores there, then you would do those chores, or you'd have some more free time. I'm trying to think if there was anything. I think, there was, then you would have some other chores, depending on where your chores were, as far as some cleaning of the dorms and things like that. And then by the end of the night, there would be a small devotional piece. And then I can't remember when lights were out now that I think about it. It was early. It was early for me. I'm a late owl. It was like 9 or 10, somewhere in that ballpark. But it was early. But I usually had no problem getting to sleep, obviously, since I was getting up a lot earlier than was the norm for me at that time. I was thinking 5:30. I'm thinking 5:30. If anyone who went to that school is watching this, maybe you can remind me about some things or some details there and in the comments. So that was kind of the general day in and day out. Now, you would also participate through the week. You would participate, or bi-weekly, some sort of ministry where you would go off site and go and partake of a ministry. I know I was part of the first year. I was a part of a nursing home ministry, and then my second year there, I did part of a ministry where we went out to like a local bowling alley, and we kind of just went there and hung out. There was like kind of an area, I think there was pool tables, air hockey. And we just kind of hang out and look for opportunities to, just talk and befriend with people and potentially share the gospel with people that we would encounter or throughout the bowling alley. So those were the two ministries I was a part of. And then, I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. So that's what and then once a month or you would have a shopping trip, be it there was a guys weekend, a girls weekend, and then one of those weekends was sort of co-ed, but you weren't supposed to hang out with the other sex. So that was a part of the school, was that a lot of it was broken down, guys, girls, though you shared classrooms with them, but they were on one side, you were on one side, like chapels were broken up like that. So that was kind of, debatable whether that was healthy or not, but I understand the motive of it is because, you shouldn't be coming here looking for a future spouse of any sorts. But it, I will say for me, it did make things awkward, even coming out of that school or that situation when it comes to interacting with those of the other sex per se, because now the norm was, you didn't have a lot of intermingling or fraternizing, so to speak, with the other sex, but, and had limited communication. Yeah, so there was that, and then there would be, so then you would have, monthly get-togethers or weekend get-togethers where you might have things, but one of them specifically was a co-ed get-together where then you were allowed to interact, with the other sex per se, but you had to still keep a balance of 2 guys, 3 girls. It couldn't be one-on-one, because they didn't want to allow you to start actively pursuing, because of course you look across the way and hey, there's some people you're attracted to, and they look across the other way and hey, they might find some people they're attracted to or interested. And obviously people's personalities would still show up, and it'd be easy for people to probably have, crushes or interests while you were there. But so yeah, that was one thing that was going on. And again, everything that was done kind of getting back for the purpose of not being distracted. Keep your focus on pursuing Jesus, getting to know him, getting to know God, and to just growing. And so the sacrifices had to be made. Like, for example, there was no TV allowed, or TVs, music. Now this is, again, 2003. Now the technology we're living in that's readily available still was just kind of new on the scene or developing, but still old school technology. Again, TVs, radios, things like that. You did have access to the newspaper, so you could kind of keep up to date with that. And I, being at that time a big sports fan, that was my main way of getting my fix on sports, following the NFL and following the NBA. And so yeah, or you could call. There was a phone you could call, and there was this service. This was old school. You could call and get I knew some number that you could get the rundown of the scores at the end of the workday, or you'd hear word of mouth before having to wait till Monday. But yeah, so there was a lot of those things, and so everything was focused there. And so I think that was for good. I think maybe kind of a little strict, but I know the purpose in it, and I could even tell the difference when I would go out, or when, between breaks, between the different semesters, school years, when you'd go out, you would definitely have a greater sensitivity to the world around you, per se, a heightened sense of, I'm just the darkness that kind of exists around, just being able to be sheltered in that environment, and especially a very highly spiritual environment, because you are straight diet, God, Jesus, Holy Spirit, faith, other believers. And so it was awesome. I appreciated that. And so I would say that, looking back, if I think about the different times in my life, that this, as I lived it, would probably be my second favorite time frame in life. The previous time period mentioned in the last video is probably my favorite time of life, and this would be second. Now, and as I go on with further videos, I will reference this time period, this specific time period, and some of the effects that it had. Not all of it was positive. A lot of it, there was some negativity or some things that I took from it that affected me and hurt me. Now, whether it was because if some of that was on me or whatnot, maybe we'll talk about that as we move forward, but it did have an impact. But as I was experiencing it at that time, it was a very positive time frame for the most part. And it's not to say that it was easy. There was a lot of it that was hard and difficult to go through. Even, initially I go in gung-ho, and the discipline and regimen of it, I think I was just so zeroed in, especially that first year, that it didn't affect me much, where maybe other people struggled in those areas per se did that. But spiritually, I was getting fed daily. I was getting some solid foundations built in my life, in my spiritual life, that are, still have benefited me all to this day. And especially when it came to one of the things I went into the school with, was struggling with the love of God, or understanding grace, understanding mercy and the law and things like that. And I think that first year was beneficial. And I would even think looking back, that if I would have only had that 1 year, that would have been enough to set me up for a lot of success, or the success I needed to grow. It would give me the foundation tools to have grown beyond on my own, or with any further instruction outside of this particular school. And sometimes I wonder, maybe that would have been best, because let's kind of fast forward to, we get past the first year, and then I have the break, and then we go back second year. But I almost didn't go back, mainly because I didn't have the finances. Even for how inexpensive it was, the finances weren't really there. And I actually called to inform them, that the staff, that I would not be returning. But before they just kind of let me go with that, they asked me, said I should take a step of faith, basically, and still come. And so basically I did, not knowing even where the finances were going to come, if I took this step of faith, but I took it nonetheless. And so I made it to my second year, and I went, and second year was pretty solid too, as compared to the first year. I'm trying to think, they kind of sort of, now this far down the road, it's been, good night, 14 years since I graduated. So it all kind of starts to bleed in, as far as the events, the different tones of the years that I'm trying to think. I think by the second year, I'm definitely more well-rounded, more grounded, mature in my faith, and mature as an individual. I'm just trying to think. I can't remember anything. I think the third year is where maybe things started to. I started to struggle a little bit under the how the school was ran, or the discipline of it, or the order and the structure of the school started to wear thin. As you can imagine, with sort of a community like that, they were very high on, the authority and the positions of authority, and I generally, naturally had a respect for the authority. And I think, there's biblical precedence for authority, and within Christianity, and within the structure of Christian community and fellowship. So anyways, I think, the third year, some of that, and then there's a lot of structure, a lot of rules, and, me being very mindful. I've always, even before I was a Christian, was always mindful about rules and obeying rules and not wanting to get in trouble. So it was kind of easy for me to kind of fall in that. And then obviously in my mind, I obeyed rules, even if I disagreed with it. Like, for example, I don't know, one thing that I hated was, you see this thing right here? Wasn't allowed to have it. I mean, I was I had to either, could only get my sideburns here, and then everything here. I could have a mustache, but I looked stupid. I used to rock a mustache when I was in high school, and it didn't look too bad, but I felt like as I was older, it looked a little bit more stupid. I even remember rocking it, growing it out one break, a Christmas break, and coming back with it and just trying to be silly. And I think I caught everybody off guard, and they were giving me stink face about it. But anyways, I would always joke, and I would say to this day, obviously I had a little bit more hair up top too, and that was another thing I disagreed with. Since I naturally just always wore my hair short, like a buzz cut, or
you could only have it so short. And I don't know, I just felt like after it grew out so long, I don't know, I didn't feel like it maximized my looks potential. And I'd say, like, if I could have rocked my style like I could have, maybe I would have came out of that school potentially with a spouse. I don't know, even though you weren't allowed to talk with them, but you still were able to develop relationships over the time, but I don't know. I've been out of school since 14 years and I'm still unmarried, so maybe that has nothing to do with it at all. But anyways, just some fun side notes there. But yeah, I still, I saw that as a small thing, and, just did my, still obeyed, and, but the third year, but I'm kind of getting a little afield here. Before I hit that third year specifically, I did want to talk about one of the other blessings, though, beyond the opportunity to dig in, was the community, was being around other believers. And I will say this, though, to that, though, I made some really great friendships and formed a lot of great friendships and relationships there. Some that I still have contact with to this point, maybe not in the degree that I would like. I would have loved to have been able to have all these people in my life still to this day, if I could be honest. And that'll be something maybe I'll touch on down the road, as I do more deep dives about maybe things concerning Christian community and whatnot. But I was so grateful, and that's probably one of the things, besides the deep spiritual revelations and understanding and the truth and the foundation that I was able to build while at this particular school, was the relationships, the community. Man, I love those people. I still to this day genuinely love most of those people or all those people, but some people obviously I knew better than others and connected with, and I just have, there was sort of a brotherhood and sisterhood there, and and I could, if I saw some of these people, and I know we're all in different places of life, and I know that there are those who aren't following the Lord, or this school did have even more negative impact on them. So it was a mixed bag about, but if I was to see those people, we would have that instant camaraderie, no matter what side I think that we were on, but we could still relate to the experiences that we had there, and the bonds there, even the good and the bad, that depending on which your perspective, or, and everybody has different perspectives and about that time or experience, or, for some, they would probably be like, how could you have a bad time? This was awesome. And then some would look and like, how could you, or some were kind of middle of the road. I'd probably be more of a middle of the road type of person, or 70-30, good, bad. I don't know. Anyways, I don't want to get into that, again, but, I'm going to be honest and real about my experiences that I share. And this place and this time had a pivotal place in my life then, afterwards, and has laid foundations for my life. So to better understand me, I feel like, I got to be honest or share. And again, that's why I'm not necessarily disclosing the name of the institution or the school or any place that I attended, because I don't want to inadvertently cast aspersion or anything on any particular group of people, so to speak. So anyways, the people, love the people. If you're watching this, and you were part of that experience and you know me from that, whoever you are, know that I miss you. I hope, I pray, through the years I've prayed knowing, that you are on the path still, you're following Christ, that any hiccups that you might have had as a result, or hurt, I hope that you are still, at the end of the day, you're still pursuing Christ in some way, some fashion, actively serving Him, ministering. Maybe if you've fallen away and are watching this, perhaps remember what caused you to go there to begin with. And, I will believe, I know that churches can hurt people, or religious institutions of a variety, but at the end of the day, we're not going to be able to like stand before God and say, hey, I stopped following you because this person, that person, this institution, that, we have to, I mean, those can hurt, and I don't want to delegitimize that because I've been hurt and I've been affected, and so I know, but at the end of the day, I believe in Jesus, right? I believe with him despite what others have done or said, and I have to hold fast to that belief in him. And I hope that maybe you remember that, or that hasn't gone away. And, so anyways, I know that's kind of a little bit sidebar, but if you're watching, and hey, some of you guys, that might catch on this, and other people who aren't connected with me or become disconnected with, share these videos, share them. Hopefully just for people's benefit. Again, I'm not trying to get big on YouTube or anything, but I'm just feeling like I want to pour out of what's in me, and I'm not given a chance otherwise, or I feel like it's been limited. So, I'm doing what I know to do to share from my experience, or what knowledge I feel I possess. So anyways, but the community, I love those brothers and sisters, and they hold a special place in my heart, and I do miss them still to this day. Anyways, so yeah, but moving forward, so to kind of get you a sense of, then by the third year, just to know my experiences, so I was fortunate to go to, on my internship, you only had a small break between your second year and third year before you got assigned your internship, and I was blessed to be able to go with 5 others, or 7 others total, because then there was 2 staff members, to go over to Ireland and to serve over in Cork, Ireland, at a church there. I loved that church there, and the ministry that was going on there. This would have been Cork is in Southern Ireland, so obviously this is still very largely, this is Catholic Ireland, not, but I never got a huge sense in my time there, maybe the tear between Catholic and Protestants. I know most of that, I was there in 2005, summer 2005. I was there for 3 months. I was supposed to be there for 6, but me and another sister were asked to come back to the States to help start a ministry that was in a local ministry. But anyways, I was blessed to go there for 3 months and serve with this church, and it was actually a Pentecostal also church at that time, or still, I don't know, but it was a Pentecostal, so that was kind of like, if there was, I think even Pentecostalism was even kind of maybe looked even as an outlier to traditional Protestantism in Ireland, based on what I could pick up. But we were there. The purpose there was basically to go and to evangelize, to share the good news, and we did that in a variety of ways. We served the church and ministered in different ways through the church, directly, but also be it administrative, be it teaching, be it daycare, joining up with other church functions or ministries. I know they were actively having a lot of different mission groups come through from different churches and schools, and so we helped assist there, and it was a pretty cool time. It was a pretty cool experience, I would say. It was hard because I felt like if there was any kind of reins, the reins over at stateside when you were at the school, I felt they were tightened a little bit more. And I get that was more for our safety and protection, but sometimes it made it hard because you never felt like you had any time to yourself, because, I lived in a small apartment with 3 other guys, and, but anyways, for the most part, I love the Irish people there, the Irish people from the church. Have a lot of good memories and stories I could share and tell about my times there. And so maybe on another day I'll share some of those in another video, or people request hey, tell us some stories, so anyways, but it called back to the States, and then was located back on campus, and then served in ministry, an inner city ministry, like a sort of like an after school type, a day-to-day after school program. I joined there and served there for the rest of my internship. And like I said, then that particular then like I said, we went back to school. We went back to classes for the last half, and that's how we finished out our time there. I will say, without getting into great detail, like I said, like sort of, I think by the third year, I definitely was struggling a lot more with the discipline of the school as far as the order and the regiment. With sort of the authority structure, I felt like, it was harder for me because whether it was my flesh and I wasn't able to keep it in check per se, or that, or maybe I felt like there was some abuse, or I just felt like my voice, I didn't have a voice. And there was a lot of things, and maybe God was working through me, dealing with pride, dealing with ambition or things, but there were some things that caused me to be frustrated inwardly. I didn't really let it out. I kept most of that to myself, or worked that between me and the Lord, but it definitely started to faze me. And so, going into that school, I would have thought, man, I would be happy to be able to be on staff, to continue out. And most of our class actually, was in our class, though, would say, I can't remember what we started off of the first year but by year's end, third year, we had been minimized, whether it was people who had left voluntarily or people who were disciplined for whatever reasons, and were asked to leave. So it was definitely interesting, again, the dynamic. And so I know, and even I'll address it, I'll just, maybe some of you guys hearing this will think, oh, maybe you were part of a cult or whatnot. I don't know. I mean, I could look back and I could see where someone could get that impression, and even me being in it, there might be some things that you would lean towards that, but I ultimately feel like cults are usually meant to produce and stay within house, but I never felt that was the goal of this particular ministry or institution. And I would actually think that would be kind of, to be honest, maybe one of the things that I would knock against it, like that they didn't build themselves in a way to multiply the good that was there as far as the community living and things like that and the ministry. And I think they were built more to send people out, right, to different ministries and things like that. But I think if they would have kind of started to try to replicate themselves, that throughout, that would have maybe been a better model, now that I've kind of looking more to understanding Christianity. But anyways, I personally, I don't feel like it was or is. I know perhaps there are some students that felt that afterwards, that, and I'm not trying to disagree with them about that either, about their feelings. I guess it's a matter of your perspective. But anywho, I did. But anyways, most of my class stayed on. But I felt led to go. I think when I was in Ireland, I felt the Lord was kind of prompting me to go back, that I was going to go back home and serve and minister there, and that's where He was leading and guiding me. And then I think by the time everything kind of came to an end, I was kind of burnt out. I was burnt out, and I was ready to kind of, get away from sort of the structure and order, and kind of for at least a season. I think maybe had I taken a break for a season, I could have seen myself going back and serving and ministering, but that's not the course that happened for me. So anyways, I think that kind of, without going into a lot of details, good or bad, but kind of giving you a sense of what life was like for me for 3 years. And I'm sure I'll go back and I'll touch on things and talk about things as, again, I'm just giving the high spots of my life. I'll be able to do more deep dives about my thoughts on things and feelings or my experiences, or in other videos or other video series, you'll hear me talk about those things. And that's kind of why I'm doing these video series, so you guys who don't know me, have a sense of who I am and my experiences, and why I think the way that I think or believe, or my experiences, and how I translate those in my learning. So yeah, so I think that's where we're going to leave that off. I feel pretty satisfied with that. And so again, now we will be talking about the next chapter of my life, and this will be an interesting one. I don't know how to break this down, because this might be a bigger chunk of the last few years. This next one might be close to a decade-ish. So I don't know how I'm going to break up this next chapter, and what that looks like quite yet. But anyways, I know that this is probably a pretty lengthy video, as I've seen at least one power bar go down. But anyways, I hope you've enjoyed it. If anything, you're able to just maybe put this on in the background. I probably should have said that at the beginning, so you could just listen to it. But yeah, and so hopefully it gives you more insight about who I am, as I hope that you, as you may follow me or come to get to know me through my video series, that you can have an understanding of my perspective on life and whatnot. So, and at the end of the day, though, it's all to glorify Jesus. So anyways, like, comment, subscribe, pass the videos on if you think people that have benefited them, or if you think if there's some of you old people, you people that this particular video spoke related to, maybe get it to them, so hey, people can see how I'm doing, or so hi everybody. Anyways, all right guys, take care, God bless, peace.